Blues Brothers were a blues and soul revue band from Chicago, fronted by Joliet Jake and Elwood Blues, who were probably not actually biological brothers. They grew up in an orphanage and they were introduced to rhythm and blues by a guy called Curtis, who worked at the orphanage. They're most famous through the 1980 documentary The Blues Brothers, which catalogues some of their history, particularly focusing on the period between two jail terms for Jake as they tried to raise money to save the orphanage from closure. They released three live albums, and of course, there's the soundtrack from the film. Hi, my name's Dan, and for the first time on my channel, the About the Act section has been deliberately fictitious. So the Blues Brothers were not what I claimed, but that is the story behind them. They were created as a semi-comic spoof, but turned out to be a really solid band. So the Blues Brothers themselves are John Belushi and Dan Aykroyd, and there's a Saturday Night Live connection here. They were actually active as a band before they appeared on Saturday Night Live, and ultimately became the central band for the seminal film of the same name, The Blues Brothers. The band as well includes some serious players, including Steve Cropper and Donald Duck Dunn, who were from Booker T and the MGs, who were the house band for Stax Records. We've got a brass section with some real luminaries in as well. And they started by opening for Steve Martin for his live show. Then they appeared on Saturday Night Live, and then they did the film, and they have done various tours, I believe, as well. So the film is a comedy with lots of music. I wouldn't class it as a musical because they don't just break into music as part of explaining the plot. The kind of the music is actually situationally correct. And this album is and we're getting to the album. The album is the soundtrack for the film. And as well as having Blues Brothers with their band and the two singers, there's also features a glittering list of stars here. Ray Charles, Aretha Franklin, Hab Calloway, James Brown, and Dwayne Eddy. So Peter Gunn, which appears in the film and also appears on the album, I believe is the only track that, with the same recording, has appeared twice in this list so far, because I have also reviewed the Peter Gunn soundtrack album from the TV show. John Lee Hooker is also in the film, but he's unfortunately not on this album. I do like a bit of John Lee Hooker. I've seen this film quite a lot of times. I used to claim it was my favourite film. I've heard the album many, many times. It's a firm favourite. And I am not able to have a detached view of this from the film, unfortunately. I try to review albums as if I was listening to them for the first time, and I have such a strong connection with this album that is impossible for me, I'm afraid. It had a profound effect on my listening and taste. It opened up a whole new musical world for me of this style of music. It led me into exploring people like Cab Calloway, Aretha Franklin, Ray Charles particularly. I discovered through this. And I saw it as a student when I was at a nice impressionable age, and suddenly there was this whole new area of music that I enjoyed. So it was a real seminal moment for me. I did try to listen to it as if it was an album, and it does have, I would say, as an album, it's a bit of an odd mixture because it has Blues Brothers songs and it has these guest songs in it as well, and it makes complete sense in terms of the film, but as an album, it's a little bit odd in that sense. It is seriously good R&B soul blues with a big fat sound and a real heart to the playing. John Belushi, turns out, although he's a comedian, he's pretty good at singing. Is gritty and soulful, and it works really well. It's a feel-good album. It's all the better for me, of course, for loving the film, but probably good if you haven't seen the film and if you don't love it. If you haven't seen the film and you like a bit of silly film stuff, it's a silly film, but it's a really good silly film. So I absolutely adore this album. I am so glad it's on this list. I think this is the first album from the list that I have given a score of 10. It's almost certainly not the last, but it's been a delight to be coming back and listening to this again. As always, I'd love to know what you think of this album, so please do let me know by leaving me a comment. And that's it from me for now.